Well, would you look at this? Harry is reportedly heading back to the United Kingdom next month, with wife and children tagging along, to kick off the countdown to next year's Invictus Games. And according to the leak everyone seems absolutely obsessed with, he's picked Villa Park, the home stadium of Aston Villa, the football club that William, the man Harry has spent years feuding with, adores more than almost anything outside his immediate family. Honestly, the narrative practically writes itself. Parking the tanks right on William's lawn. An act of war. A carefully crafted jab at the one deeply personal thing his brother treasures. And I want to spend the next 20 minutes explaining why this entire scheme, assuming it's actually real, is destined to flop at the one thing it's supposedly designed to accomplish. Because humiliating William requires one crucial ingredient. William has to react. And William simply doesn't. We have years of receipts. What you're about to hear dismantles the story every other channel has been pushing this week, and reveals the version hiding underneath. Yes, the Villa Park leak is provocative. Yes, the optics practically scream drama. But the people presenting this as some genius move aimed at William have it completely upside down. This isn't strength. This is what a brand on life support does when it's running out of runway and running out of time, while aiming the spectacle at a man whose entire documented strategy has been to glance away and stay silent. By the end of this, you'll understand why the supposed plot to humiliate William might actually be the clearest indication yet of how little leverage the Sussexes have left. Here's the basic picture. According to reports discussed on the Daily Express podcast, Harry, Meghan, and their 2 children are expected in the UK around the 10th of July, supposedly to launch the one-year countdown to the 2026 Invictus Games in Birmingham. The leak that sent the internet into overdrive claims the announcement will happen at Villa Park, Aston Villa's ground, which, considering William's very public lifelong devotion to the club, is being interpreted as a deliberate personal provocation. Added to the mix are questions over whether Harry's armed police protection through Ravec has actually been approved. Reports suggesting King Charles's team is refusing to commit to a fixed date for any audience with Harry this summer. And then there's the claim floated by the hosts themselves that the real reason behind this trip is that the Sussex brand is struggling and Meghan needs, in their own words, to recalibrate her royal credentials. Now that's the line everyone repeated, but somehow nobody bothered chasing. So let's chase it. Start with the cover story, because it falls apart under the slightest pressure. The official reason for the trip is a countdown announcement. 1 year until Invictus. Here's the problem. A countdown announcement isn't exactly something that demands a transatlantic flight, 2 children, and an entire stadium. Harry could have recorded a 60-second video from the Montecito mansion. 1 year to go. See you in Birmingham. Finished. The countdown is basically a press release with a date attached. It doesn't require bodies inside a building. So the moment you accept that reality, things start looking very different. And just this month, the brand's latest grand move was a £110 Father's Day morning ritual gift box. A candle, some cardamom tea, a matchbox, the sort of thing that inspires jokes rather than purchases, and which several commentators are now openly predicting signals the brand quietly winds down within a year, surviving only as a skeleton website and a name, much like the Arcueil Foundation reportedly has. Now place that beside the trip. What does a royal lifestyle brand really sell? Not jam. Proximity to the crown. The word Duchess. Royal credibility. And royal credibility is exactly the asset that has been slipping away the longer the Sussexes remain in California without any working relationship with the institution. So a family visit to the UK producing images of Harry and Meghan and their children back on royal soil, back inside the British press, back within touching distance of the monarchy, isn't some heartwarming reunion. It's a brand campaign. It's an effort to refill a credibility tank that's been running dangerously low using the one method still available. Show up where the cameras are and stand as close to the crown as anyone permits. Villa Park isn't about William. Villa Park is about the scenery. A packed, internationally recognizable stadium makes a much better photograph than a press release delivered from a sofa in Montecito. And here's the really funny part. The whole dig at William narrative is actually the most flattering interpretation possible because it paints the Sussexes as fearless masterminds delivering a calculated blow. The far less flattering and frankly far more believable, explanation is that they simply needed a big, photogenic, headline-generating stage, and the stadium delivers exactly that. Strip away all the war rhetoric, and what's left is a brand desperate for eyeballs, choosing the venue most likely to provide them. Now, finally, we arrive at the part that truly matters. Even if you accept the most dramatic interpretation and assume this whole thing is genuinely meant to poke William, it collapses under its own weight. Because humiliation is a two-person performance. It needs a target willing to react. And everything William has shown over the years says he simply won't. Think back to his appearance on Heart Breakfast, Britain's biggest commercial breakfast show. More than 4 million listeners, almost 3 hours of easygoing, fatherly, relaxed live radio. He mentioned all 3 of his children. He talked about his late grandmother and her very specific opinion on the cream versus jam debate. He happily chatted about Aston Villa's European success and admitted he became so caught up in the excitement he forgot cameras were even filming him. Yet across that entire broadcast, 4 names never appeared once. His brother, his brother's wife, his nephew, and his niece. That's not someone taking the bait. That's someone whose most reliable strategic instinct is denying his brother the one thing his entire public approach appears to rely on. A reaction. Roy and Nika at the Sunday Times, the journalist senior royals reportedly trust when they want something known without saying it themselves, has described William as a man who keeps grudges, chooses a side, and remembers. He doesn't explode in public. He stores things away and waits. So imagine the Villa Park scenario actually unfolding. Harry stands inside the stadium. He delivers the announcement. The press spends 48 hours writing dramatic war headlines. And William says absolutely nothing, attends a school visit, shares a conservation project, and carries on exactly as normal. A provocation needs something to bounce against. And William has spent years turning himself into a man-shaped void where reaction should be. You cannot embarrass someone who refuses to acknowledge your existence. That silence everyone interpreted as cold during Heart Breakfast turns out to be something else entirely. A shield. It's preventative. Whatever Harry does at Villa Park, William's answer was settled months ago, and it's the same answer he gives to everything these days. No answer at all. A jab only matters if it draws blood. William stopped bleeding publicly a very long time ago. And here's the detail that makes the entire Villa Park maneuver seem not just ineffective, but strangely irrelevant. Whatever happens on that pitch in July changes absolutely nothing about what happens the day William becomes king. 3 royal biographers, Tom Sykes in The Daily Beast, Tom Bauer in his book Betrayal, and historian Andrew Loney, have all independently reported, without any denial from Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace, that William intends to use letters patent to remove Harry, Meghan, and their 2 children from every royal title the moment he ascends the throne. The process requires no court, no parliament, and no permission, and supporters of that theory argue the precedent has already been demonstrated. So place the 2 ideas side by side. On one side, a symbolic photo opportunity at a football stadium designed to reinforce royal credibility. On the other, an alleged plan that supporters claim could erase that credibility completely, permanently, and legally the moment power changes hands. One is theater, the other is machinery, and the theater does absolutely nothing to slow the machinery. If anything, it strengthens the reasoning behind it. Because every time the Sussexes use proximity to the crown as a brand recovery strategy, every carefully staged appearance, every attempt to refill credibility, they reinforce exactly the argument those biographers claim William already makes privately, that the institution is being used, weakened, and dragged into controversy by relatives who benefit from it without serving it. Loney has reported that William's private concern is that the monarchy risks becoming a joke and that people are laughing at it. From William's reported perspective, a Villa Park spectacle aimed at embarrassing the future king simply becomes another exhibit supporting the case for removing titles altogether. The visit doesn't buy the brand extra time. It potentially gives William more ammunition. And there's one more thread worth pulling because it's by far the coldest. The podcast floated the theory and then, as usual, casually moved on. That Harry and Meghan have allegedly been using access to Archie and Lilibet as a route back in. That Charles, who reportedly hasn't seen his grandchildren since 2022, and who is effectively a stranger to them, wants that relationship badly enough to leave open a door he might otherwise have closed. If even part of that theory is true, pause and think about what it actually suggests. It doesn't describe a couple operating from strength. It describes a couple whose remaining leverage with one of the most powerful families on Earth has supposedly narrowed to one thing: access to two small children. When the brand struggles, when streaming deals disappear, when titles face reported threats, what remains to bring to the table are the grandchildren. That's not some grand power move. That's what remains when the rest of the cards have already been played. And it explains exactly why the Villa Park storyline looks the way it does to anyone paying close attention. People operating from positions of strength don't need symbolic spectacles. They don't need manufactured confrontations inside football stadiums. The grand provocation, the act of war, the tanks parked on the lawn, that's the language of people desperate to project power because the real substance behind it has slowly drained away. So when the headlines arrive next month, and they certainly will, claiming Harry stormed Villa Park and humiliated his brother on his own turf, remember what you're really witnessing. Not a masterstroke, not some brilliant calculated strike launched from a position of strength. A brand in trouble producing the only thing it apparently still knows how to create for free. Photographs, proximity, the illusion of relevance, all aimed squarely at a man who decided years ago he would never hand his brother the reaction this entire production relies on. Harry can stand at Villa Park. He can deliver his announcement right in the middle of William's beloved club. He can roll every tank he owns onto that lawn. And William will do exactly what he always does these days. He'll look somewhere else. He'll speak about his wife, his children, his grandmother, and his football club. And he won't utter his brother's name. The whole scheme depends on William blinking. William stopped blinking years ago. Meanwhile, the only clock that truly matters, the letters patent, the titles, the credibility this entire trip is supposedly trying to save, keeps ticking toward a morning when William signs his name and ends the entire debate in a single afternoon. You don't humiliate a man by stepping onto his lawn when he's already decided he's taking the house. So now I want to hear from you in the comments. Is the Villa Park trip really a bold power move? Or is it exactly what it appears to be? A brand running out of road disguised as an act of war? You already know where I stand.